Drake once said he wanted to gracefully bow out of the rap game, to step away on his own terms, not be forced out. But now, TPain is holding him to that promise. Because over the past year, instead of stepping back, Drake has stayed in the spotlight, releasing more music, jumping into public moments, and continuing to compete in a space he once said he'd leave behind. And TPain's message isn't rooted in hate, it's about accountability. "You told us how to leave with dignity," TPain seemed to say, "but now you're not following your own blueprint." It wasn't a diss, it was a reminder from one artist who found peace stepping away to another who might need to do the same. When Drake spoke in that 2023 interview with Lil Yachty, he painted a thoughtful picture, an artist who wanted to leave the game on his own terms before time or the industry forced his hand. It was honest, it showed foresight, and it made sense. But fast forward to today, and TPain is pointing out the obvious. Drake hasn't stepped back. In fact, he's more present than ever. More music, more public appearances, more pressure to keep delivering. TPain's reflection wasn't meant to diminish Drake's work, it was meant to challenge the disconnect. Because Drake once said he didn't want to be the artist who overstayed, but lately, he's looked more like someone struggling to let go, and that's what hit TPain. It's not about taking shots, it's about keeping your word, about protecting legacy by knowing when to pause. Drake is still one of the biggest names in music, but TPain's message is clear. Sometimes, greatness is defined not just by what you create, but by when you choose to stop. And before we move on, if you're rocking with this so far, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I'm pushing to hit 1,000 subs, and every single one counts more than you know. Alright, let's talk about why TPain isn't just talking, he lived it. TPain is speaking from the trenches. The man knows exactly what it feels like to be on top, to fall off, to get clowned by the internet, and still reinvent himself without begging for attention. TPain went through the industry meat grinder and came out sharper, funnier, more self-aware. Meanwhile, Drake is moving like someone who's never faced a real no in his entire career. TPain said it plainly, "I'm done trying to impress y'all," and that hit different, because while Drake continues to release music in rapid succession, hoping to reconnect with the moment, TPain is quietly reminding everyone that legacy isn't about numbers, it's about timing, impact, and knowing when to step aside. Drake's recent moves? They don't feel as deliberate as they used to. Pop-ups at country shows, random sneak disses, re-releasing older tracks. It all feels like someone searching for direction. And TPain calling him out isn't hate, it's veteran wisdom. Because TPain saw what Drake once stood for, and he's wondering if even Drake remembers what that was? Let's be clear, nobody's mad that Drake lost to Kendrick. Battles happen, even giants bleed. But it's how Drake responded that made it worse. Instead of falling back, regrouping, and letting the culture breathe, he chose to spiral, lashing out, dropping more music, talking tough, and acting like the fight never ended. Bro, the crowd already went home. Kendrick dropped the mic. You're the only one still shadowboxing. TPain saw right through it. He called out the lack of grace, the refusal to sit in the silence and accept defeat. And that silence, that's where growth happens. That's where legends mature, but Drake couldn't handle it. He kept firing off Lucy's, hopping on awkward features, and showing up in places that screamed desperation, not dominance. There was a path back to respect, even after losing, but Drake swerved off it, straight into delusion. It's not about beef anymore, it's about how you carry yourself after the battle. And Drake, he's carrying himself like the guy who swore he'd never be this insecure. That's what TPain saw. That's what fans feel. This isn't a fall, it's a slow unraveling. And the worst part? It's completely self-inflicted. At some point, you have to ask, who's letting this happen? Because there's no way Drake, with his level of access, fame, and resources, is moving like this without a full team behind him. And that's exactly the problem. They're not stopping him, they're fueling it. TPain's critique isn't just aimed at Drake, it's a subliminal to the whole OVO machine. The handlers, the yes men, the executives, too afraid to say, yo, this isn't it. Instead of regrouping, they're tossing more gasoline on the fire, more features, more leaks, more desperate posts trying to make Iceman sound like a comeback. It's not. This isn't strategy, it's survival mode. And when an artist with Drake's track record is in survival mode, the fall hits even harder. TPain's rebrand worked because he embraced the fall, turned the crash into a new chapter. Drake's pretending the crash never happened. And every move his team greenlights just buries the brand deeper. Real ones know, a strong team protects legacy. Right now, it feels like Drake's inner circle is watching him sink, and they're too starstruck or scared to throw a rope. If there was ever a moment that screamed I've lost the plot, it was Drake popping up at a Morgan Wallen concert like it was just another Tuesday. Seriously? The same Morgan Wallen who got caught on camera casually dropping the N-word, and that's who Drake decides to stand next to in Houston? This wasn't just a bad look, it was a cultural misfire of epic proportions. TPain didn't even need to mention it by name because the timeline said it all. The backlash was instant. Fans weren't divided, they were disgusted. How do you claim to be a voice of the culture and then align yourself with someone who disrespected it so blatantly? Even if it was just a surprise appearance, the message was loud and clear. Drake's out of touch, and worse, he doesn't seem to care. He's chasing relevance wherever he can find it, even if it means alienating the very community that built him. TPain's warning hits even harder in this context. Graceful exits don't look like this. They don't look like clout moves with problematic artists. They look like knowing when to say enough, and Drake, he's still chasing applause in the wrong room. Let's get one thing straight, Drake can still make music, no one's saying he forgot how to rap. But the problem now isn't the sound, it's the energy, the vibe, the perception. Fans don't feel the magic anymore, and that's dangerous. Because in hip-hop, perception is power. Drake used to move like a chess master, strategic, cool, untouchable. Now, he moves like a man trying to outrun his own shadow, throwing out songs like darts, hoping something sticks, and it shows. Even the die-hard OVO fans are starting to squirm. The charts still hold him, sure, but the aura? That's what's fading. And perception is a slippery slope. Once fans start feeling like you're slipping, the numbers eventually follow. TPain knows this. He watched it happen to himself. He fought his way back by reinventing, not retreating. Meanwhile, Drake is acting like nothing's changed, while everything has. Every mid-drop, every weak feature, every awkward moment chips away at the image. And when the perception turns, no amount of streaming numbers can protect you. The culture moves fast, and right now, it feels like Drake's the only one not keeping up. TPain isn't just talking, he's walking proof that reinvention works. The man went from being clowned by the internet to performing at Coachella, dropping soulful covers, and winning over a whole new generation without chasing trends. That's the blueprint Drake should have followed. But instead of evolving, Drake's doubling down. Same flows, same flexes, same tired subject matter. It's like he's stuck in 2015 while the rest of hip-hop moved on. And the irony? TPain learned that from Drake. Back when Drake said he wanted to bow out before getting kicked out, TPain listened. He took the advice to heart, while Drake completely abandoned it. Now the student is teaching the teacher. Drake's ego won't let him pivot, and that's why every move feels like regression. TPain embraced humility. Drake rejected it. One reclaimed his legacy, the other's slowly burning his. And what's wild is, Drake still has time to course correct. But that window is closing fast. The longer he ignores the signs, the more he clings to this delusional version of himself, the harder the crash will be. And if he won't listen to fans, maybe he should start listening to someone who's already survived the fall. Drake used to feel relatable. Even in his most flex-heavy eras, there was always a thread of vulnerability, a sense that he still understood the people who made him. But now, that connection's frayed. You can see it in the comments, in the reactions, in the silence, when a new single drops and nobody's rushing to quote it. Fans aren't just bored, they feel ignored. The version of Drake that resonated with real emotion, storytelling, and introspection has been replaced with someone who sounds more like a parody of himself than the artist who once ran the game. And TPain sees that. He's not just calling out the career moves, he's calling out the emotional gap. Because when you stop evolving with your audience, when you stop reading the room, you don't just lose momentum, you lose trust. And that trust, it's what makes legends last. Drake still gets streams, but the emotional pull that made him special, it's slipping fast. TPain's whole career revival is based on rebuilding that connection. Meanwhile, Drake keeps pretending it's still 2016. And the more he doubles down, the more fans check out. Quietly, completely. Here's the cold truth. Hip-hop isn't in the same place it was when Drake first took over. The landscape has shifted. The audience has matured. The culture demands evolution, not repetition. And that's where Drake seems out of step. While the listeners have grown, navigating new phases of life and expecting more depth, Drake's music often returns to the same familiar themes. It's not about age, it's about growth, and T-Pain understands that better than most. He adapted, he matured with the culture. He didn't try to fight time, he embraced it. Drake, on the other hand, appears to be holding on to a version of himself that doesn't quite reflect the moment anymore. The bars feel familiar, the emotion doesn't always land, and the subject matter? Fans are starting to crave something more. In an era where authenticity matters more than ever, Drake risks feeling disconnected. That's what T-Pain's warning was really about. Not just career moves, but cultural alignment. Because hip-hop moves fast, and if you're not growing with it, you're getting left behind. Drake can still be part of the conversation, but to do that, he'll need to meet the moment, not just echo the past. Drake's legacy isn't destroyed. Not yet, but let's not kid ourselves. It's in critical condition, and the wildest part, he still has the talent, the influence, the platform to flip the script. But that's only if he drops the ego, silences the noise, and finally does what he said he'd do years ago. Take a real break, step back, recenter, reinvent. That's what T-Pain did, and it saved his career. Drake doesn't need to disappear forever, but this run, this frantic, insecure, throw it at the wall and hope it streams cycle, it's not it. The culture feels it, the fans feel it, and even his peers are starting to speak out, because legends don't fizzle out, they choose their exits. T-Pain's call out wasn't just criticism, it was a warning, and if Drake ignores it, he won't just lose relevance, he'll lose respect. The kind of respect that doesn't come back with one hot verse or one tour announcement. He doesn't need another hit, he needs clarity. The clock's ticking, the world's watching, and the next move Drake makes, it won't just define the year, it could define the rest of his legacy. If you made it this far, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're not just watching rap history unfold, we're watching legacy get rewritten in real time. And if Drake keeps going down this path, the next chapter won't be about dominance, it'll be about denial. But what do you think? Is T-Pain right? Can Drake still pull off a redemption arc? Or are we watching the slow collapse of an icon in denial? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, check out our video on why Kendrick's leaked verse has the whole industry shaking. Because trust me, that bar about how many let me down wasn't just a lyric, it was a warning shot. Tap in, we're just getting started.